Yeah, we gotta take it easy on this old gal. 62%. 68. Alright, well, let's try it. Let's do it anyway.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everybody. So this is week 8, and this is going to be landscape color mixing for the landscape. So let's go through our colors, and we'll start over here. So the two that'll be confusing are Payne's Gray and Ivory Black, and you can remember that by I've got white and black on the ends. Right? They're bookends holding everything else in. So that's black. We got Payne's Gray, our burnt umber, and yellow ochre. Up here, cadmium yellow light. My cadmium yellow deep, you might have cadmium or cadmium orange, whatever you have. And then my cadmium red light. I'm using Cremence white. And then the medium I'm using is the Marager. So what we're going to talk about today, so we're going to look at one of my paintings at the stage that it's in right now. And these are more or less what we're going to be mixing, but we'll probably also mix some clouds up. We'll see. The first thing is going to be the bottom. At the very bottom of the canvas is our brown. And that's our ground, right? And we want that, as just a reminder, we're doing our orange, green, purple setup. The green is the dark green of the trees and the lightest light in the sky. Our purple will be the sky in between the clouds towards the upper part of the canvas, as well as our mountains in the distance. Then our orange will be our land, the gray above the mountains, and then as well as our clouds. So that's going to go from bright orange to gray oranges, but all those are going to be in the orange, and we'll get deeper in there as we go. So we're going to start on the ground. We're going to start with our darks. And our darkest dark is our green. So let's see. You guys aren't going to see what I'm doing there. So we're going to take this away right now and just think about color runs. And then we'll come back and talk about where these might go. So we have our dark green going across. So I'm going to put that at the bottom just since that's really kind of an anchor for us. So Payne's Gray with a little bit of cad yellow deep. Or, may take cad orange and a little bit of cad yellow light for you, depends. And then just slowly add the cadmium, because we don't really want to get too much lighter. We're just trying to warm this up a little bit. Right? It doesn't have to be black, but we want to hold our dark there. We'll lighten it up with atmosphere. Ooh, I forgot to set my other camera. Whoops a daisy. Okay, so that would be dark green of quote unquote the trees, but you guys know I'll use that thicker and thinner and then work into it. So from there, we have our foreground. And this is actually relatively light there. So I've already built some of my darks up, and so how can we go darker? We could add black to that and bring it down. Or black and just a little bit of cad red. I gotta be careful with that cad red. Just about at too much. Do you guys see how those are close to the same? then by adding, we can get that brown even darker. So what we want here is we want a little run kind of back into space for our ground. So if we've got the black and then we've got the burnt umber, what might we do after the burnt umber? We could go burnt umber and yellow ochre. Does everybody understand I'm doing steps of kind of from bigger, heavier, stronger to a little weaker and lighter as we go back into space? And I'm also going to add some air with these, but even before I add the air, I want to think just mixing up my orange, how can I make it seem a bit weaker? Can you guys see that happen? Let's see what this looks like. All right, it's not great, but you can still kind of tell here. Do you guys see that? And again, right now, this is almost more for practice than anything. And if I wanted to go one more step without adding white, I might go even more yellow ochre. Okay, so this gives me an opportunity to have those runs there. Okay. We got our dark tree. We've got some run on the ground. What's behind the ground? Behind the ground? Well, the mountains, of course. The distant mountains. Come on, we're thinking picturesque here, right? Picturesque. So those are going to be, excuse me, a purple. That definitely need to be more of a number 3 value, or perhaps even lighter. So with just some Payne's gray and white to start with, oops, I want to be careful because I don't want to get it too light. And I want to basically make this my most distant land. Right, so what would that feel like for this to be way, way, way far away? Right? Notice if I need to, I'm not scared of adding more white. I just want to do it in a way that I can control it. Okay, and I feel like we probably need to even be a little bit lighter than that. But this is a sunset, so what's the problem with this? It's a little bit cool. It's a little bit cool. We're going to address that here in a second. So if you'll give me permission to come back to this color. Let's keep moving along. And what we're going to move along to now is the orange in the sky. So here we have the orange in the land. That's going to run into that. And by the way, how are you going to gray this down appropriately? Well, let's wait till we got this right before we do that. So, in the sky then, just above the land, there's a lot of things that happen on this planet Earth. A lot of activity, a lot of animals. Buffalo herds stirring up dust. Those big whales sputting up whatever they spit out of their spout. Anyway, it causes a lot of dust and activity around the surface of the planet, which affects the color of the sky right there. So one of the things we're doing right now is the color of the sky at the horizon is going to be a gray orange. And is the sky lighter or darker than our land? Our sky is lighter than our land. So we've got to make sure that whatever we mix up here is lighter than that. So down the road we go. We just keep going. And now that looks like we're there, but pardon the expression, but it's just not a very lively color. It's just not a very lively color at this point. That sparked it up a bit. That sparked it up a bit. Now that looks more alive. Now, so that distant mountain is surrounded by all this sky. So that gray, that blue, that purple just got a whole lot richer. And guess what? What's good for the geese is good for the gander. Just a little bit here too is going to make more for a more realistic sky color and less separation between our last of our land and the first of our sky. And then right at the horizon, it might even do something like that. Do you see? So if we got the mountains, and then we're going to go to lighter sky, but it's still gray, and then as you get up above in the sky a little bit, the color can actually clean up a little bit because some of that dust isn't getting so high. So we start getting a little cleaner color. So I feel like I just used a whole bunch of words. So let me see who's up. Does that make sense, Miss Ellie? Did that make sense? Okay. So we're going to keep going. So what do we have here? We have our dark trees. And then we could start with our dark land. Now this is going to be too dark for the land, but you may have some dark accents down in your grass. Right, and then as we move back, it's going to go like that. Then if that's our distant land color and sky, look, why don't we pick up a little bit of this right here. Let's pick up a little bit of this. And let's work a little bit of this into that and call that our land right next to our mountains. So that's our very distant land that's going to be right next to our mountains. And then our mountains are going to go right into the sky. Can you guys see how we travel through here? And it's a definite pattern. Orange, purple, orange. Very grayed, all of it. But it's just an orange, purple, orange pattern. Okay, and I know you guys are going, wait, that's sky? Yes, that's sky. Now, this is going to bring us to the climax of the whole painting, which is really going to be a very light green. Green? You heard that right. So since it's very light, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little Payne's gray, and I'm going to really raise the value of that. Because we're talking about our lightest light now. What I'm going to do is use just a touch of cadmium with a touch of Payne's gray and probably just the slightest bit of yellow ochre to get it from being just too far out of touch. Right, and it'll probably read like completely yellow to you. See, as I put that in there, it just died down just a little bit. And what that actually did was bring it into harmony with the rest of the painting. Can you see that? Can you see the harmony in that? Okay. Now, before we go any further, can you guys clearly see our values here? We've got dark and dark. Then we're moving up through these. We got here, and we're working to our lightest light. Okay? So you want to make sure as you're doing this that this doesn't get flat in value. Right? Always kind of zoom out. Okay, are my 4 values represented here? And if not, well, maybe you need to slow down and think about the decisions you've been making with your life. Slow down and think about those color decisions you've been making. Okay. And so at this point, I want to stop and see how everybody's feeling, especially those that are doing the landscape with me. Ellie, you're doing the landscape. Does this all feel good to you? Are you? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Katie, how is this feeling so far to you? You're doing the landscape too.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm gonna follow that pattern.
Okay. Is this a good place to stop, or should I talk about clouds too right now?
Oh, Jan said talk about clouds. But you can-
Well, I would do anything for Jan, so we're going to go on with
Oh.
clouds here in just a second.
Alrighty.
All right. And let's see, Claudia's doing the landscape. Do I remember that right too?
Yeah, she's sending a picture of it.
Okay. So, Claudia, if this doesn't make sense, stop me. But let's review what we have here, because I'm going to have to move some things around so I have some room with clouds.
It makes sense, but I already did it wrong.
Okay, but that's okay. And we're not so far that we can't correct it. What have you done wrong, Claudia?
My mixture was greener, and I sent you a photo of it today, and I like it, but it's not right.
Okay, and again, you guys, we want to look at what's on there and adjust, rather than like tearing the house down and rebuilding, you should all be able to adjust
Yeah.
at this point, right? And I glanced at yours, Claudia. I'm not recalling totally, but it didn't seem like you were off or anything.
Oh, good.
So I'll have another look, and I will talk about all those in the morning.
Okay.
And talk about it. And now in the sky, there's a very particular thing that's going to happen here. So we've just made orange sky, didn't we? Now this orange sky, what did we do here? Hold on. Where are we? What's my name? Green trees, orange fields, to Purple Mountain's Majesty. Then we're going to tie this back to these fields. Then we're going from this into the sky. So the sky's down here. That's the gray of the sky. It will climax here with this color. Does that make sense? And can you see that, how this is the brightest here on the palette as well? And that's what you want to get used to seeing. Now look, this might surprise you guys. Let's see if I can. Let's see. So this is the little color study I've done. And now this reads super, super yellow, doesn't it? But it's partly because of the position it is. But look, there's not that much high, very, very high key. You see, the green reveals its nature pretty quickly. the key to these sunsets is this walking off. Almost anybody can get some bright colors. It's these beautiful gray transitions. Okay? So right off of our brightest bright, that will walk off into a gray-green. We're probably not going to do that at this point, but I just want to point that out. Then, so what do we have? We've got brown, out of focus. That's cool, doesn't matter. We've got green. And then this was purple that was overtaking so much from orange that it'll have to be a little more purple. An orange cloud. Then our climax. Then we're going off green. Now, I'm going to talk about the rest of the sky now. Is everybody okay with that? Do you see how this one strand of sky is kind of its own entity? Okay. So now, as we switch, our clouds are orange, are warm, both in shadow and in light. The shadow is a warmer gray, right? Then the light's going to be a little bit more colorful. Now, does everybody remember how to do a object and a background? A light, lighter, the light is lighter, the dark is darker, and the background is in between. But in the sky, the background is actually going to have a little bit of chroma, won't it? But in order for this to work, it's got to be the only cool up here. Meaning this gray here is on the warm side, and these clouds are on the warm side, sandwiching this Payne's gray and white. That's all the blue that's there is Payne's gray and white. Okay? So I'm going to show you the clouds. And again, these clouds, I've already hit them 2 or 3 times. I'm not going to mix up 2 or 3 of these lights, but I'm going to mix up one and go over it a pass. Then the next time I'll see, does it need to be more yellow? Does it need to be more red? Does it need to be more orange? I'll adjust and add to it. Okay, and that's how I want you thinking about this, rather than thinking, okay, there's a little orange here, and then we go a little bit redder, and then, you know, there's more yellow over here. No. Just big pieces right now. So cloud in light, cloud in shadow. Sky in between the clouds, and the gray at the top holding the sky. That's what we're going to see. I know, a lot of words. A lot of words. Say, we're artists, we're not word people. Shut your hole. No, is that rude? But, oh. You don't mind if I say it to myself? Ooh. Ooh, I feel like I just got thrown under the bus. All right.
It makes me laugh.
So I'm going to move this green here, just over to here. So we got some room to partay. We got a little partay to go too. And then here's, what's this? This is our cool sky. So how do we get a warm gray? Anybody? Bueller. And sometimes we kind of outthink ourselves. So how do you get a gray? Well, gray is simply black and white. And if I know it needs to be darker than that, well, then I'll just make sure that there's enough black to white that this value gets to be darker. Now this is a little bit dark. We might end the top of the painting like this, but we also need this warm, right? And orange is our color. So we're going to grab just a touch of orange. And to keep this from being just too much, I'm going to go a touch of ochre and a touch of cad red. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of mix all that together. And then I'm just going to do the smallest amount into this gray. Can you see how this is warming up? And as we warm this up, this is going to get cooler and cooler and bluer looking. Okay, so that's what's going to go on there. And you'll have to play with your pigments, because with everybody's pigments it's going to be a little bit different depending on, you know, your manufacturer and all of that. But I would start with that. Right? Now hold on. We got to make sure that it is lighter than the land, right? Because we don't want our clouds darker than the land. That's not cool. That's not cool. That's the #1 rule, Ellie. Be cool. You gotta be cool. Be cool. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna bring this, it's looking a little greenish, so I added just a touch of red. Right, and now that's, so this is a sensitive little matter here. So let's, what will our clouds in light look like? Okay, so you see what we're setting up? Warm, warm. In between is going to be cool. And then we've got a gray up here. This seems too colorful to me. Like I feel like it needs to be slightly grayer and slightly darker. So I'm just going to add a touch of black to it. And maybe it just needs a touch of everything else too. A little hair of the dog that bit you, huh? And now that's feeling, well, you guys have a little bit of a glare on there. Let's see. There we go. Okay, and so then what would that be? Well, it would be a little bit darker. It's losing its color. It's a little bit grayer. But it's still going to be warm. And why does it have to be warm? Because that's what's going to give this the blue look. Right there. So, cloud in light, cloud in shadow, the sky behind the cloud. Then this is going to be the sky at the top of the canvas. So, we're kind of moving through here. Okay? Now our movement in the sky will be this, this, and it'll dissipate and end with that. Start, then we're going to follow the oranges up, and we're going to end with the blues. Right? And we're going to have a little bit go up that way as well. Okay, does that make sense? So the movement, now this is a color study, so we don't have as much movement in this one. But we're going boom, boom, boom. Now, I want to back up here for just a second before we finish. And we're going to finish in just a second. You do this in stages. Do you see if by not trying to get all the clouds in, but just getting a gray to play against, how much easier is it to see my sky shape? Do you see that, where I can really look at the shape of the blue? Is that a good design? You can't see this, can you? My cursor over your thing? No. Okay. So if you follow the blue up, you see there's basically two big blobs of blue. Right? And you see how they're asymmetrical. One's bigger, one's smaller. One's at a more dynamic angle. One's more at a vertical angle. It's those little things that are really going to make this sky spectacular. And so one of the reasons we go slow to start is to really massage out some of these dynamic shapes. Okay, so as you're layering these up, I want you thinking about this. Then in later stages, we can worry about warm and cool colors, or adding more depth to our colors, or richer color here, grayer color there. But right now, you want to think about these big shapes that are going to be really hard to change once we have a run of an orange cloud going next to that blue, right? If you had your orange cloud in light going from way far back, which is lighter grayer, to near, which is darker richer, and you want to change that shape, that's a lot of work. But right now, it's just gray and blue. That's a lot easier. What's the big deal? Just change the shape. Like push blue into the gray, or cut the gray into the blue. Okay? All right, so I'm going to end it there. If there's any questions, and this is for our special lady Jan. If Jan wants to see anything, and it's legal and not too embarrassing, I'll oblige. So between those two things. All right, Shakti, Ellie, how you guys feeling with this? Feeling good? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Katie, is there any questions or anything for you? Or does Jan want me to do anything embarrassing? I know she does. Good. That made my night. My heart was racing. I'm like, oh gosh, what's Jan gonna request? Oh, good.
I think we're good, guys, and I'll see if I can get her to sit through morning Zoom. You never know.
Okay, well, if you have any questions, tomorrow Q&A, you can turn in anything if you have a Q&A. We'll go over that, and then we'll look at work on Friday, too. How about you, Miss Claudia? Any questions or anything from you?
I'm good.
You're good. All right, all you beautiful people. Thank you for joining me. It was great seeing all of you. Let's see, show my face, but.
Shakti and Ellie.
We can show your face.
And Jason and Cindy.
All right, so I'm going to finish the YouTube thing. Let me finish this.
You what?
So we're